So, looks like we're all set. Welcome to this February 10th, 2025 meeting of the Development and Governmental Relations Committee. I would like to make a motion to take a roll call vote that for the purposes of this meeting would be applicable to all motions to remove an item from the table, place items on the table, package items, open or close a public hearing, or suspend the rules unless there's an objection.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I'd also like to recognize that in the chambers today we have Councillor Bartley. On the committee here we have Councillor Devine, Sullivan, Ocasio, and myself, Givner. Additionally, online we have Councillor Jordan and Councillor Vacon. Oh, and Councillor Anderson Burgos. Did I get everybody, Jeffrey?
Looks that way.
Looks like it, right?
I believe so.
Okay, good. Sometimes I miss people because I can't see them. All right, so I will entertain a motion to take up items 1 and 2 as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
Items 1 and 2 are the minutes of December 10th, 2024, and the minutes from January 13th, 2025.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's done. And that gets us straight out. Entertain a motion to take up item 3.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3 was put in by Councillor Bartley that the DGR committee invite Mr. Andrew Morehouse, Executive Director of the Western Mass Food Bank, to a future committee meeting. Mr. Morehouse will present an overview of the food bank, how it impacts and serves the city of Holyoke, and ways for the public to help and volunteer. So yeah, thank you for coming in, Mr. Morehouse, and thank you, Councillor Bartley, for putting this together.
Thank you, May I?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so just
Councillor
to
Bartley.
Chair, so Andrew, so great to have you here. Nobody's interested in hearing from me. We're going to hear from you a lot, but just to tell you what we do with this committee, and this is a great committee, and they'll have some good questions. And basically, what we want to do through this committee is invite stakeholders to the city. So certainly want to hear a little bit about your background and your experience with the food bank. We know you were in Hatfield. We know you're helping up a beautiful facility in Chicopee at the bottom of Carew Street. And I want to hear about that, and certainly want to hear as much as we can about how the food bank impacts Western Mass and specifically this city. So that's really what we're here for, and thank you again. Hit the button.
You gotta hit the button. There we go. Well, thank you, Dave, for inviting me and the committee, and thank you all for giving me a little bit of time to talk about the food bank. You please do give me the hook or the 5-minute warning or whatever. You know, I have no idea how much time you want me to talk, so I'll try to be brief, and then you can pepper me with questions or we can have a conversation. I guess I'd just like to say for folks, it's been nice to already bump into some old faces, old friends. For folks who don't know, I worked in Holyoke for 10 years. I started out teaching English as a second language at the Holyoke Community Project, which was a partnership with the Holyoke Community College. And then I worked with Greater Holyoke Inc. for several years. And then we started up a community development corporation that spun off, and it was called Solutions Community Development Corporation. So I was very proud of the work that I did in Holyoke and miss it, and I'm glad to be back. So what I guess I'd like to do is just briefly answer 4 questions. One is, what is the food bank? And what do we believe in? What do we do? Who do we serve? And what's our impact in Western Massachusetts and specifically Holyoke? So I'll try to kind of cruise through that, and then again we can have a conversation. But please feel free to interrupt if there's something specific you'd like me to talk about, because I'm going to just kind of try to scratch the surface. So what is the food bank? We are, as David mentioned, we're now located in the city of Chicopee. We were up in Hatfield for almost 40 years. And we are one of 4 food banks in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There's one in Worcester that serves Worcester County. There's another that serves the Merrimack Valley. And then there's the Greater Boston Food Bank that serves the Greater Boston area, as well as the Cape and the islands. We serve the 4 counties of western Massachusetts, so of course Hampden County, and to our north, Hampshire, Franklin County, and all of Berkshire counties. And so we are the federally designated food bank to serve this area. So all state and federal food assistance to the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts, comes through the Food Bank of Western Mass. And I should also mention we are one of 199 food banks across the country that are all part of a national network of food banks called Feeding America, based out of Chicago and Washington, D.C. So we work together. We have similar missions, but not identical. We are all independent 501c3 organizations with our own histories, our own reasons for being, and we respond to our own local community needs and those of our community partners. What do we believe in? And then I'll get back to a little bit more about who we are. Our mission is to feed our neighbors in need and lead the community in hunger. We have a vision of a Western Massachusetts where no one faces food insecurity and everyone has access to nutritious food. And our core value is we believe everyone has a right to healthy food. So what do we do? So in Chicopee, at our new, what we call our Food Warehouse Resource Education and Advocacy Center, we do lots of things, as I just to kind of conveyed. People mainly know us as a food warehouse, so we receive large quantities of food. About half of our food comes from funding from the federal and state governments, and the other half of our food and the funds for it come from the food industry, supermarkets, wholesalers, and local farms, as well as both within Western Massachusetts and beyond.
Excuse me. Is that all donated?
No.
Okay.
So half of our inventory is paid for, again, by funds from the federal and state government. At the federal level, it flows through the U.S. Department of Agriculture through a program called the Emergency Food Assistance Program that's been around for decades. And then in 1990, state legislators in Western Massachusetts proposed and advocated for state funding that would be similar to the federal funding that I just described. So Massachusetts, in around 1992, approved a line item in the state budget called the Massachusetts Emergency Food Assistance Program. And ever since, the 4 food banks in the Commonwealth have been receiving funds right out of a direct line item in the state budget for this purpose. And so we collectively receive, this current fiscal year, we have received in the neighborhood of $42 million, mainly to purchase food. And so we pool together, we band together, and Greater Boston Food Bank administers this program on our behalf, and they seek out the types of food that we want at the best prices so we can receive it and get it to people who need it. So who do we serve? Most of the people we serve are children and elders, the most vulnerable in our community. Then, of course, we serve households in general. They can, of course, be people who are obviously facing food insecurity. They could be obviously experiencing poverty, unemployment, underemployment. But typically, ever since I started working there in 2005, working families who can't make ends meet because they just don't earn enough to put food on the table, pay their rent, pay for child care, pay for job training, education, things of those sorts. And we saw a dramatic, we've seen over the course of the last 20 years that I've been there, spikes of demand for food assistance, obviously during periods of recession. And of course, COVID-19 pandemic hit, and that's when we saw the greatest increase in the demand for food assistance. And it rose to prior to COVID and in periods other than the recessions, like the Great Recession, which I was there for. That was the first recession that I experienced working at the food bank. The average number of individuals needing food assistance prior to COVID was in the neighborhood of 80 to 90,000 people every month across all 4 counties. During COVID, it hit a peak of 121,000 people in November of 23. And then actually November 22, excuse me. Then it began to decline gradually, and that was really because of 2 things. One major, I think, intervention, and that was the federal era pandemic benefits that included a child care tax deduction, increase in SNAP benefits, free school meals for kids in all schools across the whole country, and some other interventions. But the biggest really probably was the child care tax credit for any family that was eligible for it. It cut poverty by about 40% across the country, dramatically. However, those programs sunset by December 2023, and in January 2023, and at the same time, in January 2023, the country began to experience high rates of inflation, and that they persisted for well over a year. People speak of inflation now. We don't really have that high inflation. It's only around 2.3%, but we have really high prices that are accumulation over about a year and a half of inflation. And that's what's really driving food insecurity now, as we call it, or hunger. Sometimes they're used interchangeably. They mean different things. Food insecurity is really a technical term that's used to estimate how many people need food assistance, and that's based on a survey that the federal government does every year. Hunger is more just that notion of people feeling like they don't have enough food because they don't have enough food, but there's no real way to measure that. That's why the federal government came up with this term, food security, and a way of measuring it or estimating it. So that's what we're experiencing. So now, here we are in 2025. The most recent data we have is from October 2024, and I'll talk about where we get that data. In October of 2024, 141,000 individuals sought out food assistance in the 4 counties of Western Massachusetts, a dramatic increase of even over the highest period month during the COVID pandemic era, again, which was October 2022. So on average, over the most recent 12 months that we have data, an average of 123,000 individuals are seeking out food assistance every month across all 4 counties. And this is not unique to Western.
You say every month?
Every month. Every month. And some, these are unduplicated numbers, so there are more visits to food pantries and meal sites and shelters that I'll just define in a minute over the course of that month. But in terms of unduplicated individuals, 123,000 individuals on average in the month of over the 12-month period ending last October. A lot of people. And as high as 141,000 in the month of October last year. So it's continuing to trend upwards, and we're alarmed by that. So we receive large quantities of food, as I explained before, and we're distributing about, on average, 1.2 million meals every month. So over the course of a year, 14.3 million meals. And most of our food is distributed through a vast network of whom we call member food pantries, meal sites, and shelters. Food pantries are where individuals can go to get a bag of healthy food. A meal site is where you can go to get a hot meal. And shelters, of course, is where folks can seek housing, a roof over their head, and healthy food. So most of our food is distributed through this network of 191 food pantries, meal sites, and shelters across all 4 counties of Western Massachusetts. Every city you can imagine, and in many rural communities, not every, but in many rural communities and suburban communities, including Long Meadow. So there is food insecurity in every town and city in this Commonwealth and in Western Massachusetts for different reasons, of course. And we could talk a little bit about that if we have time. But these members, food pantries, meal sites, and shelters, are either nonprofit organizations, 501c3 organizations, or faith-based organizations. Where they're to be a member of a food bank across the country, that's the IRS regulation. You have to be one of those two entities, and you have to adhere to food safety standards and a whole slew of requirements that the food bank, our food bank, and others across the country administer, ensure the food is safe and it's available to people who need it with dignity, without discrimination, and without intrusive inquiries into their private lives. We do. The federal government requires that we ask certain information, and we have an income eligibility guideline for the food that we receive from the federal government. But the funding that we use from the state of Massachusetts and the private donate to buy food and the private donations of food that we received have no income eligibility requirements. You come to a pantry or meal site, we deem you eligible and in need of food assistance, no questions asked. That's our way of ensuring that the healthy food is accessible to people without shame, without stigma. So in addition to distributing most of our food through pantries and meal sites and shelters, we also distribute food directly through two initiatives of our own. One is called the Mobile Food Bank, where we send a truck mainly with perishable foods to 26 locations once or twice a month throughout Western Massachusetts. We partner with a community organization. They allow us to use their parking lot. They recruit volunteers, and within a 45-minute period of time, we provide food to anywhere from 150 to 350 individuals, 12 months out of the year, rain or shine, except when there's snow and ice. People don't like that. And we have another program called the Brown Bag Food for Elders program, where we provide food assistance to about 3,500 elders at any 51 senior centers, councils on aging across Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, excuse me. So that they include the following. In Holyoke, for example, we have 15 partners, one of which is the Holyoke Council on Aging, the Senior Center. And we operate 3 mobile food banks, one at Boone Village, another at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, which I believe is on Appleton Street, so it's in the Churchill area, and a mobile food bank down at One Holyoke CDC in the Flats. They're our partners. Combined, those 3 mobile food banks and 1 brown bag site, last fiscal year for us, the federal fiscal year from October 1 to September 30th, we provided about 206,000 meals, which represents about 21% of all the food that we distributed to Holyoke. That means the vast majority, 79% of the food that we distributed was distributed through our member food pantries, meal sites, and shelters, of which there are 11. They include the Bethlehem Baptist Community Church, Blessed Sacrament Parish, Providence Ministries, Kate's Kitchen, and the Salvation Army operating through the Holyoke Corps feeding program. Those are the 4 meal sites where you can get a hot meal. And the 7 pantries that we provide food to are the Care Center, the Christian Pentecostal Church, the Pentecostal Church Ebenezer Assemblies of God, Providence Ministries, Margaret's Pantry, the Community Builders at Lyman Terrace, the Salvation Army through the CES Emergency Food Pantry, and the United Way of Pioneer Valley, the Holyoke Community Cupboard. The largest, or the pantry that provides the most food is Providence Ministries Margaret's Pantry, about a third of all the food that flows through our member pantries. So in total, in the city of Holyoke, we provided just about 900, the equivalent of 950,000 meals through that network that I just described. Again, most of it through pantries, then meal sites, and then about 21% through our own mobile food bank and brown bag site. So that's about 1/14 of the total meals that we provide over the course of a year across Western Massachusetts. I should pause. Well, I'll pause for a second. How's that?
Okay. No, I'm just saying.
Counselor Sullivan? Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
You mentioned a lot of your funding is coming from federal grants. In the last couple of weeks, has any of that been curtailed, or are you still getting the same amount of money?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. There's been no effect from federal funding as of yet. We all know that there was an attempt to freeze all federal funding, grants, and loans. That was rescinded. And so at the moment, federal funds continue to flow. Most of the federal funding that we receive is to purchase food. A very small amount is to actually help us cover our operating support. And the same is the case with the state funding. Most of our funding to cover our $9 million operating budget is raised by private sources from individuals and businesses and foundations, private foundations. So we're very grateful for that. But we do anticipate that there will be cuts to federal programs. Closest to home, the federal SNAP program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, used to be food stamps. We anticipate that there will be a cut to that program. There will be new, not first ever, but more work requirements. There are already work requirements associated with being SNAP eligible, but there will be more work requirements. There'll be attempts to cut benefits, and that will have the effect, of course, of increasing need for food assistance, and more people will come to pantries and meal sites who will request more food from us. And for every every meal that all the food banks across the country, 199, provide, the federal SNAP program provides 9 meals. So to the extent that that program is cut, it's going to create a tsunami of demand for food assistance from the private charitable food network of food banks and our local members. So we're very concerned about that. Thanks for the question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, just one. You've been around for a long time. I remember you when I was on the council before, so congratulations for keeping up the work, and hopefully the grants won't be too dried up.
Right.
Because I think it's an important thing. So I just wanted to recognize your work and know I remembered you from a long time ago. So thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And just in closing, because I know unless there are other questions, I did want to just share that, while most people know us as a food bank, that we warehouse lots of food, we really embrace a holistic approach to addressing food assistance because we know, and food insecurity, because we know that food insecurity is really a symptom of much larger causes that force folks to seek out food assistance, and they include, poverty and unemployment, the lack of affordable housing, chronic health conditions, and racism and discrimination, and many other things, including just access to childcare, transportation, and education. The list goes on and on and on. So we partner with a lot of other nonprofits, and we refer individuals to seek out assistance for those resources, because to the extent that people have access to a roof over their head that they can afford, and affordable childcare, transportation, and not face discrimination and racism and other things, then they don't need to stand on a line and seek out food assistance. So we do many other things, including SNAP education, SNAP enrollment, nutrition education, and we spend a lot of time educating the public, like I'm trying to do today, and advocating for public policies at the state and federal level that will invest in communities, in families, so that everyone has opportunities to be successful and have upward economic mobility. So that's what we try to do.
Well, keep up the good work.
So what can people do? That was, I remember, the last question. The most important thing you can do is become aware by learning about what we do. check out our website. I'll leave you some flyers or some brochures, foodbankwma.org. There's a lot of information there to learn about why food insecurity and hunger exist and what you all can do to contribute. I encourage you to go visit a food pantry or meal site in the city of Holyoke and volunteer. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to feel good about volunteering. And of course, we invite you to the food bank and find and figure out ways you can get involved there. But with that, I know you have lots of other
I
things
know.
to talk about.
Well, there's a couple of questions here,
Okay.
but thank you, Mr. Morehouse. I know that I have volunteered for One Holyoke, and I often, I think Councilor Ocasio volunteers quite frequently. So
Yeah.
you had a question, Councilor?
No, not really. I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that you guys do, because without this food, a lot of people will be going hungry, especially the individuals that don't have that much of an income, and I see it like twice, maybe 3 times a month, and the lines are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and because everybody's struggling.
Yeah.
And some people stay home because they feel they don't want to go because they're embarrassed, but I encourage them to go because we are in the same boat, It's like some got more than others, but you always need something. So thank you for all your hard work and keep it up, please.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you,
support.
Councilor. Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, first I just want to thank the chair for putting this on the agenda, and the committee. This is a very good committee, and they just know more than a couple people. So it's just helpful for them now to know you. It just happens to be serendipitous that one of my favorite chefs in the city is sitting over your left shoulder.
Okay.
So
Going with the hat on over
All
there.
right.
very,
Look.
very handsome gentleman, and so and there's brother-in-law and all that, so and his wife and all that. So it's a case where you provide the brochures. You give us a lot of information. If you want to send an additional communication, you can forward it to Jeff Anderson Burgos. Perhaps I don't know if we can put a link to the food bank on our website. I'm not sure if that's within the city rules, but we can at least try to do that under the city council page. Certainly knowing Carmen like I do, who's just an avid volunteer. Patty knows 1,000 people, Mike and Cocaine. So they really it's just getting the word out, Andrew. And that's one of the things that we like to do when we invite somebody from the outside into this chamber. So with that, I'll just say thank you. And then if you want me to take the brochures, I'll pass them along to the committee, and then I'll say I'll pass them to the other councilors, okay?
Fantastic.
Counselor
Thank you.
Bartley, you may want to also give it to the mayor's office, a brochure to the mayor's office.
That's
and he can put it on his page too.
I will do
Or the
that.
city page.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
So motion of the order has been complied with?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So, next motion.
Motion to take up item number 4.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, item number 4 is special permit application for Solomar Realty LLC, care of Peter Martins, for a special permit for a proposed coffee shop, drive-through restaurant at South Street Plaza, a portion of 209 South Street. That public hearing was closed on 10/28, and this item was tabled again on 1/13. We did have a communication. Are you here for that? No. Oh, sorry. I was like, I don't, are they here?
This is the one that, the coffee shop, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Several
this is the, so we do have, this was tabled quite a few times, and we had been waiting for a communication from the planning board. It seems like we closed our public hearing before they closed their public hearing, so there was a little back and forth. But they did send this through a notice of a decision approved with conditions. And you should have all got that on Friday by email, and it's on your packet here, number 4. And basically, there are the 32 conditions with which they have to operate in, but the planning board did recommend it for approval. So there is no one here from Levesque, I don't think. So I guess I mean, this is what we've been waiting for to get this notice. So what is the will of the body?
So we've got the information from the planning board?
Yes,
And did they agree with everything?
it is the notice of decision approved with 32 conditions.
Okay.
My only question was who's enforcing this, but I don't think that's our problem.
But they're not here.
No.
Okay.
Well, because their public hearing closed, so there wouldn't have
Oh,
been a
okay.
discussion anyway.
Okay.
So they
And
basically
the,
forwarded this information to us.
The people, the applicant, are they here?
No.
Okay, so it's up to you or the committee. If everything looks in place, I'd make a motion. You're the board representation, right, for that, the coffee shop?
Yeah, for the coffee
South
shop on
Street?
South
Yes,
Street.
the coffee shop, yeah. It's not Ward 3.
Have you seen that?
Jeff did send it.
Counselor Anderson Burgos, did you have a question?
No, I just second the motion.
What was the motion?
There was no motion.
It wasn't a motion.
No.
Yeah, was there a motion?
No.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, I might just suggest, because this is somewhat dated. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
that's
it's from
the
January
application.
16th.
Then we've got something from January of 2025. And without having looked, and you've enumerated the conditions, which is something I guess I would like to look at. So here's what I think you could do. You could probably send this up to city council, and then if any of us have further questions, then you can always send it back. I mean, because this has been in committee for
A long time.
such a long
Yeah.
time.
I'm just happy to see something.
Something,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you know, we always want to thank the planning board for doing this good work.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's I mean, it's a lot. So, but hopefully it'll be a project that sees the light of day, and we'll just get behind it as best we can. So that's my 2 cents.
So
And this is just other parts of it, but the conditions are here.
So I would make a motion then to approve the permit with the 32 conditions.
Well,
Counselor Bartley, did you have something else?
yeah, I would only just say that I can't remember what because this committee closed the public hearing. If you recall, the permit was, the only thing we really do is the drive-through.
Right.
So if there's I mean, that's basically what we're here to approve the drive-through. I would, and normally we can put some kind of conditions on when the drive-through is operating, but as Councilor Devine noted, the petitioner is not here. So how do we know what hours that they want to work? How do we know what hours they want to have the drive-through open? It's not going to be 24 hours a day, I can assure you that. That's not going to work in that location at all. So I would not want to leave it open-ended, such as that. So, I mean, to me, I think you can just say this is, I don't want to be improving permits, but you can probably say that, because you close the public hearing, I guess I would need to get a legal interpretation from Mike or from the law department as to whether that permit is before this committee now. I'm not even sure it is, because I,
Yeah, I think I can help here. The hours of operation, should the hours of operation differ between the walk-in service and the drive-through service window, the applicant order will provide notice of such change in operations.
so what are the hours, Mike? Does it say in there?
The hours, signage.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hard. I just can't remember where we left off with them because they were physically here one time out of all these meetings, and it's a good baker's dozen of them.
They were here a few times, but there was never any new information.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, we're waiting for planning board. So, I mean, it's really up to the committee, but, you know, maybe you want to have it one more, I'm going to rescind what I just said. Maybe you want to have them in one more time, or at least have Jeff reach out to them. Do they want to come in? Do we need to hear about a special permit? At this point, I don't know. I think it's, I still think we have to, this committee and the city council has to take a vote, but we have to do it on an informed basis. And right now, I think we have some more questions on this.
Counselor Devine?
Yeah, through Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. Jeffrey, do you know if he was aware of this meeting tonight, the owner?
Yes, they were all invited, and their representative, Nina Fazio, emailed myself as well as Councilor Givner today, informing us that they weren't going to be attending because the public hearing was closed, and therefore they didn't believe there was anything they could add to the discussion. That came this afternoon, that they said they weren't attending.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
So they didn't seem concerned about,
then I would say, based upon that representation,
we should move it
send it
forward.
along, because
Yeah.
ultimately it's the city council has to take the vote
Right.
on the permit. So we can have the debate, and then we can impose whatever restrictions we want, and maybe between now and then, the petitioner will get back to Jeff, will say with hours and with what, give us a little more information about the timeline on this.
Okay.
That might be helpful. So, get it out of committee, and then city council deal with it.
Can I have my paper?
Oh, yeah. Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Hold on, let me get the paper clip.
What do you think, Mike?
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so on Counselor Sullivan's motion to approve the report, the
Special
special
permit.
permit.
All right, second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so this will get sent to full city council for approval. All right.
Madam Chair?
Jeffrey?
Yeah, was just a quick technical question. Was the approval attaching the conditions from that letter or no?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Motion to take up item number 5.
All in favor?
Aye.
So number 5, public hearing for special permit application of F&M Hideaway Inc. to reconstruct and renovate Shimmerhorn's restaurant and retail store per section 473 at 224 Westfield Road. Hello, sir. So you can come in and have a seat. You'll want to turn the microphone on because it's being recorded and they can't hear you online. And you'll just want to introduce yourself, give us your name and address, and yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My
My name is,
Yeah.
is
Is it on?
it on? It says
Can you-
green.
Can you throw that one?
Yes, gladly.
We-
Motion open a public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, my name is Frank Demarinis. I'm the owner of the Shimron property. I'm also a professional engineer and own Sage Engineering Contracting. I also live in Holyoke on Northampton Street. I'm here with Mick Kordoff, who is my business partner on this venture, and also we're business partners at the Delaney House, D Hotel, and the Log Cabin. And I'm here with his wife, Dana, which is the general manager of the D Hotel. and Dara Davignon, which is my fiance. Nice family that we have going on and working in the city and trying to make a better place. So I just want to thank you guys for having us here. I greatly appreciate it. I feel that this topic's almost insignificant compared to the food pantry and everything he said and the positive.
It's all very important.
It really is, and it's an amazing thing to hear everything that he does and everything that the city does. So, but anyways, to get to this topic, hopefully we can I'll go real quick and real basic. In general, we're here for one reason, and I'll recite the ordinance. So under 4.7, non-conforming uses and structures. So we fall under 4.7.3, non-conforming structures other than single-family, two-family structure. The city council may award a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change non-conforming structure in accordance with this section only if determined that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change shall not substantially more deteriorate or determine the existing non-conforming structure in the neighborhood. The following types of changes to non-conforming structures may be considered by City Council. 1, reconstruction, extend, or structurally change. Okay, so that's why we're here in front of you. And I'll give you a quick little bit of history. So we filed for a building permit, renovation permit, to take off the awning and the deck on the west side of the building, which was in a setback. We also wanted to repair the roof and do interior renovations. So the permit was granted to us. We started the work, and as we got into the building, there was many concerns, mostly structural concerns. The roof, rafters, bearing walls, columns, foundation was inadequate. It didn't meet current codes, or I don't think it ever met any codes. But I'm a structural engineer. I have 5 other professional engineers that work for me. It was clear as day we could not, with any integrity, any honesty, put life underneath that structure. So we kept working, and we had to take that down and put proper beams up, proper columns up, proper joists up, secondary, primary structures. We filed all the correct paper with City Hall, with the building department. George Haas was the building inspector. He kept everything going, proved it. George Haas was our building inspector. We had him inspecting everything we were doing. We were doing everything in conformance. He quit and ended up on the current commissioner, and Leslie had a lot of questions, so she put a halt to work order. We met with her and got her all the paperwork that she's looking for, and refreshed the paperwork that we gave, and in that time period, this was one paragraph out of the ordinance that we needed to come in conformance with, because we were moving the awning. Ultimately, we're not changing the use. We're going to operate the business exactly how it was. We might change the menu a little bit here and there, pushing that a little bit. I think it'll be better to add a few items and maybe take off some old ones. But we're going to continue the use, continue the business exactly how it was ran before. We're not going outside of the footprint. If anything, we lessened the non-conforming use by removing the awning and the deck. Normally, I'd be here in front of you if we were acerbating the situation. We're pushing the wall further into the setback. We're not doing that. We're making it better to be more conformance. So not only we're doing that in the site, we're doing that with the building, coming in conformance with the building code, all codes, the health code, everything. And we're investing a great deal in Schermerhorn's, the name and the people and our staff. We're holding all of the people that work there, and right now we're keeping busy at the Delaney House, Fishtails, different places, and we can't wait to get them back to work. So I ask of this board to act quickly, to help us so we can keep building and get these folks back to work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did notice that there's only a facade left, so I'm happy you addressed why. I'm sure everybody noticed. Counselor Devine?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, if we could, I'd like to make a motion to allow the public to speak if they'd like to.
Absolutely. Would anyone like to speak from the public who's here today? Please come up. Please come up. Please come up to the mic. State your name and address. Okay. Whoever would like to speak, please come up to the mic and state your name and address. And you can. Counselor Bartley, can you help? I know. I know she knows what she's doing. It's not her first rodeo.
Thank you. I'm Helene Florio from Wellesley Road here in Holyoke. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Holyoke Taxpayers Association. Good evening. Again, I'm speaking in relationship to the F&M Hideaway Inc. reconstruction for Schermerhorns. And we want to say we understand the need for due diligence, and that the name of the game from DG&R, which is the name of the game from DG&R when it comes to special permits, and we honor the fact that your work is for long-term betterment of the city. With this project, it's our understanding that the permits were all in place when the unfortunate discovery was made of further deterioration of the property than originally known. We feel fortunate that we have ethical builders who knew instantly that plans had to change on a dime and more restorative work was needed in order to have a safe facility for them to reopen one of Holyoke's beloved businesses. Yes, there was going to be more work to be done, and they ramped up accordingly. I'm here to encourage you to work with the builders, help them get to any benchmarks that are being demanded within reasonable accommodation to have work reinstated and continued through the process. This was an approved project. Holyoke is definitely in need of substantive business growth and development all over the city. We need businesses that will be here to stay, will pay their taxes, enhance the reasons for people to come to Holyoke, and employ our citizens and make Holyoke a better place to be. We encourage all of the entities that are part of any business development in Holyoke, all of the groups that are involved in this, to step up and work with these developers immediately so the project can be finished, the business opened, and city growth be encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss, would you like to speak? Oh, yes, please. And just state your name and address.
Hi, my name is James Colon. I live at 52 Bray Park Drive.
Mm-hmm.
We're your neighbors right to the south side of your building. So we were just wondering, well, I know you haven't gotten that far, but as far as parking, how far are you going to go with your parking, in that area?
No further than the tree line that exists now.
Okay. So there's a fence, abutting, more or less, like I said, on the south side. Is that fence going to stay in that position?
I believe, if I know.
Would you mind speaking into the microphone too, please? Sorry.
The fence that on the south of the property adjacent to you, yes, it will stay there.
Okay, no, we're fine. We don't have no gripes or anything. We're here because we're the neighbors, so we're just curious about the parking.
If we could talk afterwards, I'll be more than happy to give you more details, and we can go over that. Maybe meet on site and look at the fence that you're talking about, and I'll be more than happy to accommodate as best as possible with you and work together.
Oh, great! Yeah, I hope that we can, be good neighbors, and you can continue with your project, and be successful. And
thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Lori Belanger, 16 Roland Street here in Holyoke. I'm in support of this project, and also I'm in my capacity as a resident, but I'm also on the board of HTA. And I think that over my having been on the board for several years, as well as a former purchasing official here in the city, as we would RFP excess properties for development, there's a reoccurring theme that is not new to this committee and the city in terms of connecting and trying to move the permit process through. At our last HTA board meeting, Gary Rome mentioned he had a project in Enfield, and he had his team and Enfield, all the department heads, and they were able to wrap up from A to Z, soup to nuts, in under 3 hours. The project was ready to go. He walked in, they crossed their T's, dotted their I's, and out the door they went. It is apparent over a period of time, and then most recently this project, that there just seems to be either a disconnect or miscommunication or a different vision. And I know this city and this, everybody's aware of that. So I would ask this committee and the mayor and the rest of the city council, if you think that what we're doing to assist businesses in the permit process needs improvement and can be better, if everybody agrees on that, can we work on a plan to actually facilitate that? I will go as far, since I'm recently retired, to volunteer my time to help talk about this. I think I bring in a perspective as being a purchasing director, being on the board, being a very strong business advocate, to work within the wheels of government to try to come up with a program. And also, we must consider continuity. We had a situation here, this project was teed up, and I was looking for fish and chips around, I heard Lent, but the project was teed up, there was activity, the crews are going, and then it stopped for a couple weeks because there was a continuity issue. When a job site stops, the bills still need to be paid. All right, you have laborers, you have rentals, you have product, and then it just delays getting the project ongoing. So I support, obviously, this project and all the other development opportunities within reason within the city. But I think we can agree that this city can do better with the permitting process, whether it be the fire department, health department, and building. And I respect all of my former colleagues. I know their workload, they're committed to the city, and they're trying to do the right thing. So I would ask that this committee vote out in favor of this project. I would encourage at the next city council meeting to bless however it needs to be so Frank can get the special permit and then continue work to the next level. And also, I would like a commitment as a resident. It's election year. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to sit with whomever to talk about ways that we could at least move this concern forward. So I hope, either the mayor or any of the city councils would take me up on it. It would, I'd gladly volunteer that time. It's important. It's community-based, and we need to grow the city. A lot of great things happening, but I do encourage a quick vote out of committee and with the city council so the project can move forward. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's funny you mentioned that, but we have been working on some permitting things, just like you mentioned. We've been having some problems, and so a few of the departments, all the departments involved have been getting together and trying to figure out how to best make sure that we are not accepting incomplete applications and we're making the permit process easier. But kudos to Enfield for getting it together. I really wish we could do it in 3 hours, but right. Thank you, though. I just want you to know you're absolutely heard. Counselor Bacon's had her hand up for a while.
Oh, do we have any other?
Oh, any other public would like to speak?
There is a member of the public on Zoom with a hand raised.
Oh, I can't see them. Jeffrey,
I don't
can you let them in?
The name is Mark Albano.
Hi, Mark Albano. I see you now.
Yes.
What's
Hello.
your name and your address, please?
I am an attorney. My address is at 1 Monarch Place in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm here on behalf of the western abutter to the parcel at issue. My client is West Holyoke Plaza LLC.
Okay.
Yes. As indicated, I represent the abutter, and we're here, or I'm here on behalf of my client to inquire as to how far this project really was teed up, to use the phrase of the last speaker. I've tried to ascertain whether there was a site plan review, whether there was a stormwater plan, whether any conditions have been considered or imposed with respect to off-street parking, traffic flow, lighting, signage, and as I said, the stormwater issues. And I realize we're here to determine whether the proposal is substantially more detrimental or more non-conforming and thus more detrimental to the neighborhood, but without the information that I've canvassed, it's very difficult for anybody to make a decision as to the wisdom of the project. And I'm just wondering when all that stuff will come into place. We saw 32 conditions for a coffee shop. I'm wondering what a fish store restaurant would require.
Thank you, Mr. Albano.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are good questions. We don't have, sorry.
Dr. Bacon.
Oh, Counselor Bacon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm here for the public hearing tonight to strongly support the granting of the special permit for this non-conforming structure. My understanding of the issue before us is because it's new ownership of a structure that's non-conforming. So it's basically a technical matter. So I am convinced happily by the presentation of the applicant where they're saying they are not encroaching any further into the easement. And I'm very impressed by the integrity of the people running the project, that when they found a bigger problem, rather than just running through with the permits they had and covering it up, they did the demo they needed to do, which is probably what brought more attention to the project with the departure of a staff person. So from my perspective, it's going to be the same use. It will not be any more intrusive on anybody than the prior business was. It's been a long-standing business. It's going to keep some good life in that plaza, which borders on Ward 5 and Ward 3. And I think we want to move this expeditiously so these folks can keep going and reopen the restaurant as soon as possible. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Counselor Bacon. Counselor Devine?
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Two questions. One is to Attorney Albano. Who is the abutter that you're representing?
You're on mute, Attorney Albano.
I'm sorry, it goes
Okay.
to mute by default. I represent West Holyoke Plaza LLC, which is the retail shopping plaza to the immediate west of the petitioner's plaza.
Okay, thank you. And the only thing I wanted to say, I'm ready to vote on this tonight and to let you guys keep going, because I think every time I go by there and if I'm with anybody, they're always looking. They're always like, what's coming next? You know, they're going to watch this project because they're really looking forward to another restaurant up there. But one thing I wanted to say that really impressed me was that to the gentleman who got up to the mic and had a question about parking, how you said you'd meet with him. And I think that is wicked important. So please do that. And I think that'll answer a lot of his questions. But I'm ready to move forward with this.
Yeah, thank you.
But if I could just be heard, Madam Chairman?
That's Albano.
Attorney Albano?
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, well, without the plans and the information that I listed, it's very difficult to weigh intelligently on the propriety of the project. It's a substantial reconstruction. And the use may be the same, but for all we know, there needs to be stormwater engineering to be addressed. There may need to be different, it may be more non-conforming because now you need more parking spaces. Lighting, signage, all of that. Perhaps it's the practice of this board to not require that information. But again, I hearken back to the coffee shop, which you just considered. And I looked at the application and it was, complete with plans and engineering studies and everything else. And so I'm not opposed, or my client's not opposed to this project. It just needs to know more about what actually is happening. And to say, oh, don't worry about the fence out and back, I don't think that's enough for this board. And my client would urge the board to obtain the information that's important to a knowledgeable and wise decision on the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albano. Attorney Mantaleski is online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. So I just wanted to make, I was present at the meeting with the applicant, or at a meeting with the applicant and where this was discussed. And so I just wanted to make a clarification that the reason that they're here today is not just because of new ownership, it's because the building was taken down and it was a non-conforming building. And so their desire to reconstruct, which I guess that the community is very in support of, which is great, that needs to have the approval of the city council because of the non-conforming building that it was at the time. So it's not just a change of ownership, and I just wanted to make that clear. There are requirements that the city council needs to look at under that ordinance 473. So I'm not saying that the board, the committee can't move on however it wants to, because you absolutely can. But it may be beneficial to see a plan for the building. Again, you don't have to. That's not my call for you to say tonight. But it may be helpful for the committee to see a plan of how the new build is going to be reconstructed, considering that that is part of the ordinance. So I just wanted to point that out and hear for any questions on that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Mantaleski. Counselor Bartley.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Frank, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You just heard from Jane, but just as importantly, you heard from Attorney Albano, who's very well-respected attorney. So, in reading this section of the zoning, it doesn't drill down to specifics, right? It doesn't say that we have to have a plan or we have to, but these are just general things that usually we receive to base on which we base a vote. So the way this works here is that this committee will make a vote to recommend, and then it's a full board that issues a permit by 2/3. You need 2/3 of issue special permit. So that's how it works. So let's just, and I'll be very brief. I assume you submitted all your plan to the building commissioner I mean, you
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Great deal of detail, everything.
Yeah.
To the building commissioner.
Yeah, yes, and for some, if Councilor McGivern were here, you know what he would say. Where's the building commissioner?
Yeah.
You know, so well, they just don't.
We're bringing the building completely up to current day building codes.
No, yeah, Frank, I hear you.
And really, a lot of this is mostly site constraints. We're not changing the site. We're not changing footprint. We're not moving the building around. It's staying right where it is.
well-
We're not acerbating any non-conforming use. So, to any more plans, the site was there. The parking was there. The building was there. I'm not acerbating. If anything, I made it less by taking the deck off and the awning.
Yeah, I see 473 here, and it's exactly what you said. I mean, unfortunately, you're rebuilding the whole building, but you're not doing anything different. You're building the same building that was there on the same foundation, even, correct?
You want me to give you guys the board?
Well, I think what
drawings, the
Counselor-
structural drawings.
I think what Councillor Bartley is alluding to is that we would need all that information in time for the next city council meeting, because the chances that questions come up are highly likely from other council members, and it would have to pass 2/3 in the full city council to be approved.
More than happy to submit the building permit.
Okay.
City council. Thank you.
Councillor Bartley, sorry.
Yeah, so so Frank, I think what Attorney Abeno's saying and what I'm about to say is pretty much the same thing. For whatever reason, he's not been provided the plans, and so certainly he can reach out to either you directly, or he can reach out to Leslie Ward and go and walk through everything. For right now, would you just give a very brief thumbnail? I mean, the building's still going to remain a one-story building. Why don't you just tell me? Are you going to need more parking than what you have?
We submitted a site plan showing the parking. We're not adding any more parking.
Oh, beautiful.
We meet the ordinance the way it is with our property, having parking on our property. Leslie Ward has the plans. So we're in conformance with everything.
Right,
with that.
Frank, just hang on. So, okay, so I'm just trying to do bullet points here if I could. So I've done this so many times, so just let me whip through and you can give a quick answer. So parking, not going to change. Noise, what are your hours of operation going to be, do we think?
The same that was there originally.
7 days and close at, 9 p.m. or something?
Correct.
Thereabouts, okay. All right, and then lights and all the rest of that, it's going to be a well-lit area, I assume, but it's not going to shine in the neighbors' yards and all that. Okay, everything's going to be shielded away from neighbors and no reflections onto 91. Right, okay. And so you're nodding yes. Okay. And then, traffic that's usually one of the last things. So parking, this is how it works. Parking, noise, traffic lights, sometimes odors. That's usually, those are the 5 big ones that usually come up when we do these things. And from my perspective, you hit them all. So I'm very comfortable moving forward. I would just say, and I think the chair summarized it perfectly, is that we should get a communication from the building commissioner to explain exactly her take and summarizing it for us lay people who are not engineers such as yourself, just so for us lay people, so we can understand exactly what's happening and see something laid out. I think that as long as you address concerns just as you did with the abutter, Attorney Albano is a very receptive person. You can contact him, I'm sure, at any point, and then between now and when we take a vote next week, and you can give him access to the plans, because the plans, I would assume, be public record and be in the building commissioner's office. So, and Attorney Albano, that would be Leslie Ward in the building commission. So, and if I just may say in conclusion, Madam Chair, it's exactly what this is. This is a reconstructed property, and there's a alteration that is somewhat different, but it's really, the explanation we received really gives us, I think, a comfort level.
It's minimizing the footprint, right?
Yeah, and as you're building everything on the same foundation, the same slab?
Yes.
Okay, so really there's no real significant change from what we're used to.
Yeah, the only thing that is, instead of having I want to say, what was it? I'll give you the exact dimensions. Give me a second. instead of being 13 feet, it was 13 feet from the property line. Now we're going to be 26 feet or something like that. We added 8 more feet out of the side yard setback.
Got it.
So instead of being in it, we're pulling ourselves out of it by removing the awning and that side deck on the west.
Frank, you've been known for your efficiency all these years I've known you. And then one last thing, just through the chair to my good friend, Ms. Belanger. So Enfield may have done it in 3 hours. This committee is going to do it in about 30 minutes. So Enfield can eat its heart out as far as I'm concerned, okay? So that I think that's what's going to happen tonight. This is going to go forward, okay? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, so, Frank, the stop work order from the building commissioner, is this the one thing she's looking for now?
She released the stop work order with issuing a framing permit and the condition of me coming in front of the board with this application. And while we go through this process, hopefully this gets sent to City Council. City Council acts. She lets work to continue on. That was the intent that we have in place right now. I personally thought this was a technicality and not necessary and waste the time of the board, but because of neighbors and lawyers, here I am today, crossing T's and dotting I's and technicalities when I'm not acerbating a non-conforming use or building.
So, okay, so you answered my question on that. To Attorney Albano's point, the difference between this, as I see it, and the other one that was before us earlier with the 32 conditions, the difference is that's a brand new structure.
Yeah.
It needs new water connection, new sewer connection, new electrical connection. It's a ground up. What is before us here is a special permit application for reconstruction. And the only thing before us here, right, really is for non-conforming use. So that, to me, that's a huge difference.
Yes.
I'm ready to move forward on this if nobody else has any
I
questions.
just have one quick
Councilor Devine?
statement.
I also have Attorney Mandaleski online, and I have a question too. So Councilor Devine.
I'm also ready to move on this in a positive matter, but just wanted to read this as a part of the special permit application. Pursuant to Chapter 40A of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Holyoke zoning ordinance, application is hereby made to the Holyoke City Council to do the following: reconstruct and renovate Schermerhorn's restaurant and retail store in the limited business district. And that's all we're doing. And I agree with Councilor Sullivan. The other one that has all those conditions is totally different. It's brand new. So, like I said, I'm ready to move forward with this.
Thank you, Councilor Devine. And I just wanted to ask about, I know we've had some water runoff issues with building projects in the city, so I just wanted to ask how you guys usually contain things like that while you're building.
In general, the site was, existing building.
Yeah.
And
So you're not breaking ground, so there shouldn't be
No,
any.
right. And if we had to rebuild an existing gas line per the direction of Holyoke Gas and Electric, and we repaired the top immediately.
Okay. Thank you. Attorney Mandaleski?
Thank you. I just wanted to just make one clarification. It's not, just so we're clear, it's not a non-conforming use, it's a non-conforming structure because it has to be reconstructed. So that was just my clarification, just to make sure everybody's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would make a motion to approve the special permit application for a non-conforming structure.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Jeffrey?
I don't think you've motioned to close the public hearing yet.
Oh my God, you're right.
I was about to say
Make a
that.
motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now?
Now your motion.
Again, I'd make a motion to approve the special permit application for a non-conforming structure.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, this will be sent to the full council. Please be sure to send along all of those plans, etc. If you send them to Jeffrey Anderson Burgos, the assistant, he will get them to everyone on the council.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming
Our
in.
meeting's on the
Thanks so
18th.
much. Nice to see you guys.
Okay, good luck. Good to see you, Claire. Great to see you again.
Motion to take up item number 6.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 6, Law Department and Mayor be invited to the City Council to discuss an... Oh, thank you.
See you, Lori.
Sorry. Law Department and Mayor be invited to the City Council to discuss an update on the city's use of receivership program, including current properties being targeted and others that are excellent prospects for required repairs. I also would like to see if we can use this for larger scale problems, rental properties with the right receiver, as has been done in larger metropolitan cities. I also would like to start an initiative, as has been used in large urban settings, where we have required landlord training programs when appropriate, as well as model like Kansas City Bad Apple program for repeat offenders. Law Department and Mayor will be encouraged to look at what resources we need to go bold on problem properties and develop a plan with us. This was introduced by Councilor Jordan.
Along the line.
Welcome, Councilor Jordan.
How are you?
Good. So, would you like to start us with this one?
Yeah, just wanted to check in with either the law department. The receivership program has been around for about a good 10 years now. And I wanted to check in as to if it's still being used as an effective tool to clean up properties. I also wanted to sort of get a state of the state from the law department or the mayor or whoever's representing the city tonight as to the current status of the program. And then do they feel perhaps we need to either bulk up resources or, is there anything they need from the city council? Number 2, do we perhaps need to have stronger measures like what some of these other cities have done when you have repeat offenders? So I wanted to just kind of get a flavor for where this stands currently and how they feel it's going and what, if anything, we should brainstorm around moving forward with. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jordan. I see Attorney Mandaleski. It looks like you're ready to speak on this.
I am. I also did make a note. It looks like item 7 is related to this too, so I'm not sure if the committee wants to take both of them up at the same time.
I noticed that.
That's a
Make
good idea.
motion to take up 7 as well.
All right.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So that motion was to take up item 7. Let's continue.
Thank you so much. So I have been, since I came on a few years ago, I've been taking on the receivership program in connection with, for the past probably 2 years, it was mostly the Board of Health, but now with Commissioner Ward on board, the building department's been really involved as well, which I completely appreciate. It's always good when we can have departments working together. So we definitely have been pursuing the program. Probably in the last 2 years, we filed, I'm going to say probably 15 to 20 new actions. Some of them have been resolved in favor of, not in favor, but with the result that the property owner has come into compliance, which is great. Some of them are close to being resolved with the appointment of a receiver. We just had a couple of them that got resolved, 148, 154 High Street, which was ongoing for a long time, I think since 2018, with a little COVID delay in there. But that's a mixed use, commercial on the lower, residential on the top, 6 units. That one just got completed and sold via auction. The receiver ended up purchasing that one. And then we just have another one that's being sold right now via private party sale at 311 Walnut. And that one should close probably in the next month or so, which is great. And we also have a receiver working on 188 Lyman, which was a vacant, unoccupied dwelling that had been vacant and deteriorated for some period of time. Anthony Whitman Properties took that on as receiver and has done a beautiful job, and that should be completed within the next couple of months, which is great. So we do have several properties that we have that are pending right now in the courts. I've had a couple of lenders actually step up and start to make some repairs. One of those is 5254 Longwood. The lender, Freedom Mortgage, has come in and they're making, they're going to start demoing a garage if they have not already. And another one at 186 Suffolk, the lender got involved. There ended up being a foreclosure sale on that one, but a rehab plan had to be approved through the court to make sure that the new purchaser from the foreclosure sale was also going to do everything that was required by the building department and the Board of Health. So we've seen a lot of compliance, but there's still a lot of work to do. And when Councilor Jordan was saying just what we could need from the council with respect to being able to move better on some of these properties. Yes, obviously, of course, we'd always use support in trying to be able to support this program. We do have support also from the Attorney General. I forgot to say that. The Attorney General is assisting us through their program. We have a receiver appointed for 140 Pearl Street, and the Attorney General is handling that. There are a couple of other properties, 366 High Street, that the Attorney General has been involved with. I believe a demand was made, as well as 934 Main. So she is a sister. Maja Komaratsky is the Assistant Attorney General we're working with. She's been great in helping us out.
Jane?
Yes.
What
yes.
number Main Street? Could you go a little slower? Trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry. 934.
934.
Also, Jane, would you be able to forward all these notes to us through Jeffrey?
Of course.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. I do have a spreadsheet, so
awesome.
I can most certainly provide that to you.
That'd be great.
For the next council meeting.
Yeah, that'd be
provide
awesome.
that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. We also have outside counsel. We have Fierce Bloomberg out of Northampton assisting us with a couple of cases, just because it's hard with staffing levels to be able to get everything done, because there's so many properties that could benefit from this program. So we have them working on a few properties. One of those is 7476 Newton, which we had really hoped that we were going to be able to work with the owners and get it moving. It seemed hopeful, and we thought they were going to be able to come online, but I think we're going to have to move forward with a receiver there. They're also working on 1113 Hampshire as well. But I think there may be one other one. I'm trying to remember which one it is. 69 Gates, that they're also working with us as to getting the receiver appointed there. Obviously, first and foremost, we try to work with the property owner to get them into compliance. I have one right now. Also, this is one I didn't mention before, 15 Gates, which is an owner-occupied unit, where we first attempted to work with OCD, Office of Community Development, yes, OCD, to see if there was any funds available for this homeowner to be able to assist her with making repairs to her home so that she could stay there. and unfortunately, they didn't have that funding available. So we had to unfortunately move forward with the receivership on that property too. So what I think would probably honestly be the most helpful from the council level is more support financially for the program, and maybe a potential revision to our vacant building, blighted vacant building ordinance. Because right now, we've had concerns about what we can use those funds for. And if we had the ability to utilize those funds, that would certainly help for properties that are not vacant, but are blighted. That would, I think, go a long way in making sure that we have those extra funds to be able to move forward with this process. It's really, at this point, we're just really trying to get to the most egregious properties and trying to honestly work with the owner. We've reached out. Sometimes we'll have to get elder affairs involved if it's a elderly homeowner. Sometimes we're working with getting guardian ad litem appointed through the court to work with property owners that have mental health diagnoses. So yeah, it's going to be fairly convoluted and a long process, but initially always trying to work with the homeowner to see what we can do to help them out, to get them to a place where they can make these repairs, or if a lender can make repairs. Receivership is always the last step. Courts always want to see if any sort of process or progress can be made without a receiver. Certain judges give more deference to trying to have the owner be able to come online and give them several chances, and then 4 or 5 court hearings later, we might get a receiver. But we have several receivers here that we've worked with that are quite amazing. So I think that the program is great. Obviously, though, if we could have funding available that could be helpful to help these homeowners not have to have a receiver and have these repairs made, I think that would probably be one of the best things. I did see we had a few problem properties that recently the owner has divested themselves of those properties and a new owner has taken over, not for all of them, but for different singular properties, so that's good. The more pressure we put on the owners of these properties that have bulk properties, right, multiple units, multiple properties, the better. I just really think that if we were able to help, from my perspective, if we were able to help single homeowners, right, be able to make some repairs financially, that would be great. But as for the owners of these multiple units, we are seeing a lot of divestation. So I think that can be good, but it's all to be told to see where these new owners take them. So.
Thank you, Attorney Mantaleski.
You're welcome.
And I just have a question that either you or Counselor Jordan can answer. I see your hand up, Counselor Jordan, too. Can you please explain briefly how someone gets to receivership as a private homeowner, just because I'm sure that not everyone understands this process or why we're involved at all?
Right, absolutely. So generally, we have a notice of violation, or what? Okay, stop. Go back a second. Generally, we will get a complaint. The Board of Health will get a complaint from an abutter, maybe someone that we, or maybe during the Flex Squad has went out and
so there's a Board of Health complaint. Mm-hmm.
Right. So a Board of Health complaint. And then a inspector from the Board of Health will request that they go in and request of the homeowner that they are able to come in and do an inspection. It may be a tenant, and sometimes the tenants will let them in, sometimes they won't, sometimes the homeowner will let them in, sometimes they won't. So if we have a complaint about some internal issues at the Board of Health and we have not been able to get access, we can file a motion for access with the court to be able to come in and do an inspection. However, I haven't seen that too often. It's most of the time that we do have access. And so what will happen at that point in time is the Board of Health inspector will come in, will look at the property, see what type of violations, if any, there are there, state sanitary code violations. Sometimes a building department official will attend with them. More recently, we've had if we do comprehensive inspections, the fire department sometimes sends a person as well.
And depending on the complaint, I imagine. So there's a Board of Health complaint, then there's an inspection. What happens next?
So then they give them usually, it depends on the violation. Some of the violations are 24 hours notice to correct. And some of them are 7 days, some of them are 30. Generally, if it's anything related to fire, life safety, heating, water, those are all emergencies, 24 hours to correct. Some of the other less egregious are the 7 and the 30. Time will go by. If there are certain offenses that are egregious, which there were at one property I will mention here that I didn't mention before is 123 Walnut. We went in on actually on an emergency basis to get a receiver appointed there. But if they are egregious enough, we can go in on an emergency to the court and ask that a receiver be appointed. If they're not, we will go in, and if a property is occupied, then we will generally seek first an order from the court that the owner comply with the state sanitary code, and the court orders them to actually make the repairs. If a unit is unoccupied or vacant or owned by a deceased person, then I will generally seek a receiver right away and have that receiver appointed. You're usually looking probably from the time of filing to the time that happens between 45 and 60 days, because you have to file and then get service and then have your hearing. And then if a receiver is appointed, then that receiver essentially takes care and custody of that property. If there's tenants, they are, in our orders, we require them to house tenants in alternative housing. If there are no tenants and it's vacant, then they have the ability to submit what's called a rehabilitation plan. And they will then have that approved by the court, any sort of rehabilitation to the structure. And then that will go on for a period of time until the repairs are made, and then they'll issue a final report seeking to have a lien on the property. And then the receiver can generally sell the property and have their lien recovered from the amount of the sale proceeds. So in the circumstances of vacant properties, a receiver is usually the best option. And for the other ones, again, it's about trying to get the homeowner or property owner into compliance. So obviously, a receiver is usually a last step with respect to those.
Thank you very much for that. Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Jane. This sounds like really good work that you're doing, and really, really appreciate it. I wanted to just mention a couple things. One that I always found fascinating about the receivership program was that, if I'm correct, in the payment priority on these liens, that it's first property taxes, and then it's the receiver's lien even takes precedence over the mortgage. And that way, one the nice features of that, as I recall, is that we can help encourage these banks to perhaps get involved if there is a mortgage on the property, because if they run out of money, if that lien gets too big, they actually could be secondary to a big receiver's lien. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, are we getting any bank buy-in? But before you answer that, I did want to ask you about a couple other properties, like, for example, 414 South Street. I wanted to know if you're aware, that's that house/car dealership next to the gas station on South Street. Is that involved in the program? And then the other one that immediately comes to mind is some of these really, abandoned buildings, like the one on Cabot Street that's been one Councilor Ocasio and I have been really concerned about, next to the grocery store, which has had various sections of it either demolished. There's been multiple fires there. And beyond even the receivership program, at what point do you go next level, if you can, on some of these landlords to seek liability against them for knowing violations of the state sanitary code? Do we even consider, if somebody's a real bad actor or just totally blows you off, or we can't get a receiver involved because they're afraid that they can't recoup the money? Is there an opportunity for either the Attorney General's office or somebody to make an example out of some of these landlords who just totally abandon a really dangerous building and do nothing? So I guess my point is, we've got receivership for buildings that, with enough rehab, we can resell that property, right? And this is critical work, because it's really helping neighborhoods and helping the people affected directly by these buildings. But for those that are abandoned, when does the law department go next level and say, you know what, we gotta either do what we can to pierce some corporate veil, to sue, to make an AG referral to see if, because it is, I believe there is actually a criminal violation for knowing state sanitary violation. So I kind of wanted to understand the progression of, obviously, receivership is a strong measure, for no question, but when it goes even beyond that, I'd be interested in your thoughts.
Thank you. So first, as to the bank involvement, yes, we have had a few where the banks have gotten involved. One was the 5254 Longwood, where the bank actually is getting involved in demolishing the garage, which was one of the main issues there. The bank did get involved with respect to 186 Suffolk, where they ended up moving forward with their foreclosure quicker than they normally probably would have, because they started to notice all of that after we filed our action. And they actually helped us obtain a good property rehabilitator, essentially, to take new ownership, which was great. And they had to have that rehab plan approved by the court, so that was all great. So yes, there have been banks that have been willing to step up. Some of these properties, they don't have mortgages because they're old and abandoned. So they've already been foreclosed on by the bank. There was one property that was a Fannie Mae property, I believe, that was habitually a problem. But they ended up finally stepping up and taking control and doing all the necessary repairs there. So yes, definitely, the receivership program is certainly leverage to get the banks to do some action. 414 South Street, absolutely. It is on the list. I know there's been other actions going on at different city department levels with respect to that property. I had heard talk that it was going to be sold, but I'm not sure if that is accurate or where that stands at the moment. But yes, it is definitely on the Board of Health's radar. The issue is that it is technically a residence, but it's being used as commercial too. So it's hard with respect to that one, because the receivership program, it can be used for mixed use, but not for commercial, just plain commercial. So we are moving forward on that one. Yes, it's definitely on the radar, and the Board of Health is very much aware as to what's going on with that property. The Cabot Street one, I'm gonna ask that maybe Councilor Jordan or Councilor Ocasio provide me with some additional information on that. I'll take an email if that works, just so I can make sure that that's on the Board of Health's radar. And then with respect to, the progression, right? So generally, I have not been involved with, not generally, I have not been involved with pursuing a criminal action with respect to these, what's the term? I'm having such a brain blank right now, but absentee landlords, right, or absentee owners. I have not, again, pursued a criminal charge against them. However, I am aware that you can do that. Most of the time when we are at this process with respect to a property owner that has completely ignored all of their responsibilities with respect to a property, usually the treasurer is also involved in the collector with respect to proceeding with a tax title action. So we're usually dual tracking these things, making sure that we're trying to seek compliance while at the same time also potentially seeking tax title. So we definitely do that. But I haven't really gotten to a point with an owner or a bank or with a receiver where, well, not a receiver, but with an owner or a bank where I've had to pursue that, but I'd be open to hear anything that the council would like to see happen. So yeah, I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll follow up with you by email and follow up with us relative to resources or language changes or any of that type of stuff that we can help you with to make your job easier. We want to do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Will do.
We just pulled up 414 South Street. Is this house that looks like a used car lot?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Last name Knapp.
So there's like no running water. There's no toilets. It's very interesting.
Wow.
Because it is a house, but it's also a car dealership, and it was recently, up until this past year, getting full license from the license board.
Really?
This year, yeah. So this year there was a lot that went on with respect to that property at the licensing board. I think they.
Interesting.
I honestly wonder where that stands.
I don't want us to spiral here. I know Councilor Sullivan has some
but yes,
actual
it is
questions.
Most certainly on, it's most certainly on our radar.
Wow. Okay, Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, thanks. Back to 5254 Longwood. Who's the bank? Is it a local
Freedom
bank?
Mortgage.
Freedom?
Correct.
So they're in the process of tearing down the garage, but all they've done with the house, and this has been going on for years now, all they've done is supposedly secured it. This was a real problem for the neighbors there, and the place is still uninhabited, and still an attraction to drug users and looters and stuff like that. How long did it take us to take it away from the bank and get it into the hands of a real receiver that's going to fix the house up and put it back on the market?
I think the intent with respect to this specific property is for the bank to foreclose, and they're just doing what they need to do with respect to the garage to make sure, because that structure is very unsafe, to make sure that there's no issues with respect to injury from the garage. If there was some sort of evidence with respect to drug use in the facility, I would be more than happy to hear about that and take that information to the Board of Health, and then we can see if we can get a receiver on that property. The problem is that the court is usually reluctant to appoint a receiver when some owner or interest holder, such as a mortgage bank that holds a mortgage, is involved. So they generally want to see them do the repairs as opposed to appoint a receiver. So if there's a specific ask that I could make of the bank, I'm happy to do so. But I know that their end goal is, or their end action is foreclosure of the property to get it in the hands of some other owner.
Well, they haven't done a damn thing.
So if they haven't moved at all on demo, that is most certainly news to me. And I'm happy to reach out to I do have an attorney contact there for the bank, that I can reach out to that attorney and speak to them about concerns and just what we need, what you would like to see with respect to that property going forward.
Yeah, myself and Councilor Bartley and several others, we've been contacted numerous times for years now regarding that property and the bank's refusal to do anything. So, I mean, short of what they finally did, which is try and board it up and lock it better, but the people just come and kick a cellar window in or something, and they're back in there before you know it. And a lot of people.
Yeah, if there's definitely a butter that can make a complaint to the Board of Health, then I can absolutely take that to them as well, to the bank.
Okay, and we started to mention some of the other ones, like the one Councilor Giordano and Cassier, after we've mentioned that several times, the Cabot Street property, but we've also have, I believe the number on it's 62 Main Street. We've got another one on Commercial Street, Gatehouse Road, all of these other commercial and industrial properties.
Right, so that's the problem, right, with respect to receivership, is it's not for strictly commercial or industrial properties. Receivership is only as to residential property or mixed use. So we can't use the receivership program, unfortunately, for those type of properties. Gatehouse, I know we've had that discussion. I went to court and got a court order for them to come into compliance, and they still haven't. So it's really trying to figure out what is the next step with respect to those commercial properties, right? And the industrial properties. So that is definitely a multi-department effort. I know building is involved, obviously, Board of Health is involved. There's another property that we're dealing with. So I'm trying to remember which street it was on, but it's with respect to some chemical issue. So those are all things that we are working on. We're just trying to. Oh yeah, so we did do one. We did move forward with condemning a commercial structure just last week, 56 Suffolk, where we ended up going in and having to house the people that were residing there. And we actually were able to get affidavits from people saying they were actually living there. So it was one commercial structure where we were able to go in because we had evidence of residential use when it was a commercial use alone. So there is a process with respect to those properties, but just commercial and industrial in general they're exponentially more difficult than a residential property. So definitely brainstorming and trying to figure out what we can do with respect to those properties. So happy to hear any additional input. I know we talked about funding for those type of properties before as well, and having a Councilor Sullivan, I know you talked about it, having maybe like a demo person that we have on staff, or I know you had discussed this before, and you said you're going to say it more articulate than I am. But anything like that we can get into our ordinance and getting position staffed is going to help that situation exponentially.
All right, so, good, I'm glad you brought that up. At the last council meeting, we approved the transfer of funds to, and I believe that this week the posting is going out to fill that position.
Which is great. That's great.
Yeah. And also, you may want to look, while the revolving fund that we have now has, I believe, 160 some odd $1,000 in it. Now, certain uses within the scope of that, I think, can be just ordered either by the building commissioner or the Board of Health regarding some of these issues. If it's in regards to, it's a revolving fund, and if it's within the scope of that fund, these funds could be utilized.
Right.
The reason this other one had to come in front of the council because it was going outside, to a different department. So.
Right. Yeah, I would love to see that ordinance expanded in scope to be able to use those funds for other purposes as well, because that would be extremely helpful too. Because some of these buildings are not vacant. I would love to use that money to help get them to a place of code compliance.
Yeah, and even there where they're not, when I look right across the street here, they're not supposed to be using plywood either. I don't know how that's happening.
100%, and they do fine them for, because they should be using polycarbonate, right? So we have an ordinance that says that. So they do get cited for that. And if they don't pay it, they definitely do get liened.
Okay.
The Board of Health is very active with that.
All right, and the only thing I would suggest too is, however, I know we're outside a little bit on the receiver stuff, but we're into it. I'll finish real quick. Yeah. I can't stress enough with what's going on, both with the commercial street property that's right next to the water department, and 62 Main Street. I believe 62 is the number. I hope I've got that right, but they're a real threat to the community. So.
Yep, I will definitely take a look at that 62 Main Street, and Commercial Street is also definitely on our radar.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. I just wanted to ask, do we have a list also of the problem properties in Holyoke, in like a concise list of things that are on the radar that we're worried about?
We do have a problem property group, and we meet once a month to discuss things like this. So
is that a public meeting?
It is not.
Okay.
It is a working group of sorts between the departments. So I think I can check. Usually John Dychek up in OPED, he helps with putting that the agendas together for what we're going to discuss. So I could seek his guidance. I have a standing meeting with him every Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I guess I'm always just interested in, sometimes there's meetings that are between department heads that if there is information that can be public, it'd be nice to figure out a way to share that. So, the public likes to know that they're not the only ones who see the blight. If they know there's things being worked on, it's already more than them just driving by and seeing nothing happen. So I guess I'm wondering how we can be, as a city, a little transparent about, how the fact that we are trying to solve problems and work with, property owners and figure out what to do with problem properties. Because even if we don't have a plan, it's nice. Sometimes the public just wants to know that it's on the radar and that we're working on it. So I'm just putting that out there.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something we can talk about, even putting something onto like our website. We can definitely discuss that. I think the next meeting is next week. And one thing I think that is incredibly important is for the like you said, Councilor Givner, is that they need to see, the public needs to see that they're being heard, right? And that they're being seen. And I completely agree with you on that. So I think this might be, I know there are times when, you know, we've been called to a property where a tenant, you know, is, one time we had a tenant that was heating her entire unit with her gas stove. And the owner had not paid the electric bill for the heat to work. And it was shut off, right? So we've had to get involved, and we do get involved in those cases with working with HG&E to get everything back up and running so that these people, these residents do not have to live in those type of conditions and be in such, those are such dangerous conditions, right? We have another property where we're dealing with substantial code violation issues, and we're trying to work, it's a new property owner within the last probably 6 months. So we're trying to work with them to get that property up to code. But so we do, I would like just for the council to know that we do have residents that reach out to the Board of Health with respect to those type of things, and we do assist them, and they are happy and pleased that they're there and that we're working to help make these corrections. We have one property I forgot to tell the council about, and I'll just do it quickly. 160 Pine, it was a fire. The city ended up demolishing it with some help from, I believe some ARPA funds were used. And there was a $100,000 plus demolition lien that the city had, and we're working on a new program under our state sanitary code here in Massachusetts that allows a receiver to work with a nonprofit affiliate to be able to essentially take these properties on and renovate them. It just got done in August of 2024, so it's our first one of those. And so we're going to actually work with that so that we can get that receiver, so we can get some, I believe it's going to be duplex housing in the city, and we're going to be working with waiving the demo lien so that we can get that much needed housing into our community. So, you know, there's a lot of things that the city, and I know that we had a couple of property owners in that area that were very happy to see that work was being done and things were being done there. So the community is seeing us, but maybe not as much as we hope they are. So I'm definitely happy to work with our problem property group to make sure that the residents are aware that we are taking their concerns very seriously, and we are moving forward with all that we can.
Thank you, Attorney Mantaleski. Do we have any other questions? Yep. Councilor Devine?
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I don't know if you have 43 View Street on your list, but if you don't...
I do.
Good, because I was just notified of that by a neighbor yesterday, and I went up to take a look at it, and I can tell you that the assessor's picture is wrong. The assessor's picture makes it look beautiful. It's not beautiful, as you know, and I did check with a tax collector today. It's in tax title, $8,600 is owed. The owner died several years ago. Obviously, the family, I don't think they want anything to do with it, but I'm glad it's on the list, and I don't think it's able to be constructed again. I think it probably needs to be taken down.
Right, and we have a receiver that's that property 15 Gates is probably going to be a demo situation.
Great.
But 43 View is most certainly that one's going to be one that we're going to be able to move forward with the receiver right away.
Great.
And they can put in that demo plan with the court because it's a deceased owner and the family's not involved. I mean, we have several of those. The ability for us to move forward on that is exponentially easier.
Excellent. And the only other suggestion I had, I don't know if this is legal at all, but Counselor Sullivan had asked about, I think it was Longwood Avenue, and which bank owned that. Is it legal to put a sign up that said this property is owned by this bank?
I don't know.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, I can definitely look into it.
Just something to think about, embarrass the bank. So, thank you.
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I
We
will
all-
most certainly
We all
look
like
into
that.
A little shame goes a long
Yeah.
ways. All right, thank you. Councilor Jordan, did you want to add anything, or what would you like to do with these two?
No, Madam Chair, I thought we had a really nice discussion. I think we could consider these both complied with. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay. Motion that items 6 and 7 are both complied with.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd make a motion to table item number 8.
I think Attorney Bissonnette has been waiting this whole time to give us an update, so
Okay.
let's do that before we table it.
I withdraw that motion.
Okay. Motion to take up item 8?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I can't hear you, but Attorney Bissonnette?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I wish I had better news to report on the situation. First of all, I want to thank Yoni in Conservation for all his work in monitoring the situation that originally led to this problem, which was the flooding that occurred up on Anniversary Hill, which led to some runoff during the construction period. And that has been fortified and remedied, so the runoff no longer occurs. Obviously, in a 100-year flood, you never know what you're going to get. So that was one of the things that was most important. And a change order was done with the contractor, and they've remedied that situation. But that doesn't address the sediment or anything else that got into the ponds. The city's law department really cannot be involved on either side of the dispute, as we are the contracting party. What I'm suggesting now is that if they haven't done so, the affected owners in that neighborhood in Lindor Heights need to file a claim, copy the city, to Mass West, the contractor, and GZA, the architects and engineers, so that they're aware of the claim and can forward it to their insurance company. As we don't have any notification of damages or a claim or an amount yet from anyone involved in this, other than the city's original claim, that's where we have to leave it for the moment. I will tell you that we did a little bit of research, wondering, is there a way that we could perhaps get DEP or EPA involved in doing some work as to testing the ponds. And I had hoped that that state road section would, in fact, in front of Lindor. It is not. It is a city road. There are some stormwater outfalls along that stretch of road, but appear to come from the subdivision on the other side of Anniversary Park and wouldn't have been impacted from any runoff from there. So that's where we are. I've agreed with Meg McGrath Smith that I'd be happy to repeat this and meet with the residents just to explain to them where the city's at, where the project's at, and what might come next from their perspective. So I hope that brings you guys up to date. Happy to take any questions, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Attorney Bissonnette. Counselor Sullivan has a question.
Yeah, Mike. How is Route 141, right, considered a city road?
Well, that's a good question. Apparently, there's a section that was never turned over to the state. So we're going to be looking at that because I frankly don't understand that, particularly with all the review of 141 that we've had recently in terms of some projects that are going on up there. So we're going to take another look at that, but we definitely determined that the state's not responsible for those outfalls.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it the state that just resurfaced a large section of it?
We did.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
According to the records of our Department of Public Works, we own that section of road.
Just that section, huh?
Apparently so. Figures, right?
All right. Any other questions? All right. So I'll entertain a motion to table this to March 11th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Bissonnette, and thank you, counselors online and everyone this evening.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Good night.
Yes, sir.